Welcome back into Great Day Washington. As marriages grow, they often change, and sometimes they don't change for the better. Today we're going to get some help on how to rekindle your relationship if you've been at it for a few decades or a few years. Joining us now is licensed marriage and family therapist Colette Jane Fair. Welcome to Great Day Washington. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So there's this new term called sleep divorce. I've actually never heard that before. But I have heard of couples that don't sleep together, but tell us a little bit more on why that's on the rise.
It really is, and it's not an actual divorce, it's just the decision a couple makes to sleep in separate bedrooms. And I think now that celebrities have come out and said that they're doing this, it's becoming normalized, and many couples are finding that it actually revitalizes the spark in their relationship, perhaps surprisingly.
Yeah, leave it to the celebrities to make everything trendy, but you're right, it has been happening before, but maybe more people are more comfortable with the idea, and some of them are not unhappy.
Right.
Right?
Right. In fact, it does not mean that your relationship's unhappy. It's usually predicated by health issues, differences in room temperature preference, snoring. I know that's a problem in my house. And so couples are saying, hey, this doesn't have to say anything about the quality of our connection. It just means that we're prioritizing sleep, which we know is so critical to our mental and physical health.
That is a great point. What tips can you offer for people to kind of maintain that emotional connection if maybe they've stopped sleeping in the same bed?
Yes, I just think you have to be more intentional. Make sure there's cuddle time, plan dates or sleepovers even so that you have time in bed together, and make sure you prioritize having deeper and more meaningful conversation, because that is the #1 pathway to emotional intimacy.
So deeper connection and conversations. I love that. All right, let's talk about gray divorce. Again, another term I really wasn't familiar with. Right, new thing. Is that also happening with higher frequency these days?
Yes, in fact, the stats show that today 40% of divorces are people after 50, and a gray divorce just refers to a divorce after the age of 50 after a long-term marriage. And what's even more interesting is that over 65, there's been a 65% increase in divorce in that category since 2010.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, and so do divorces look different if you are older, 65 and older, and getting divorced than if you're 30?
Yeah, I think they do look different. In some ways, maybe it's better because you've had more time to pile up resources. At the same time, if you're about to retire and all of a sudden you're looking at losing half of your 401k, that can be extremely difficult. Plus, typically parents, let's say if they are parents, they don't have young children at home. And I think one of the reasons we're seeing an increase in gray divorce is that we expect so much more of marriages today. We do expect that emotional connection, and then there's simultaneously a reduction in the stigma around divorce.
That's a good point. And maybe you've been piling up those resentments too over all those years.
Exactly. Some people are relieved.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. What tips do you have for people having a gray divorce to kind of help them move on? I mean, they might find themselves being 65, 70 years old. You've lived a lifetime with someone.
It's true. And actually there is research that shows there's a greater degree of grief in gray divorce. So the biggest thing is always to surround yourself with support, get back out there and meet new people, take up a hobby, and really maybe for the first time you can focus on yourself and what you love without having to consider someone else. This can be a positive.
Yeah.
Even though of course I'm pro relationship.
Right, of course, but things happen, and it's nice to know that there's resources like yourself, someone that they can talk to. They don't have to be sad or alone. It can be liberating.
Right, and that's another great suggestion. Go to therapy.
Yeah, that's a great point. Doesn't matter how old you are.
Right.
Well, thank you so much. This is an interesting conversation and relevant to a lot of people.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much. You can get all of Colette's tips and more information about her at ColetteJaneFair.com.